Hi and welcome back to the channel. I've decided that I'm going to do a series on the channel on the Friday-Saturday uploads. I've got a whole bunch of really good foreign language films, classic films that I haven't seen. And they're kind of eating away at me. And so I've decided I need to watch them and I want to put them up as part of the channel. I'm actually quite excited about the project. I've decided I've got an acronym for it, but it's a silly acronym, and I fully accept that right from the word go. So the acronym is Foreign Language Unseen Film Fridays, or FLUF. Yes, I know it's totally inappropriate, it's totally silly. I've been living with this acronym for a week, and it kind of works for me. It's silly, it's dumb, but it has the right mood that I wanted to kind of have for this particular project on the channel. My history as a moviegoer is low budget or kind of low class films. B films, programmers, the things I saw when I was a kid at Saturday matinees. So I'm expanding my horizons and actually looking at quality cinema for a change. So I gave my friends on Facebook a picture of a stack of foreign language DVDs and Blu-rays. And I said, which one should I do first on the channel? And because my movie buff friends are incredibly knowledgeable and incredibly generous and always seem to be online, they gave me some ideas. And I've got 2 or 3 that came to the top of the list. And then I chose one from that. And to be honest with you, I'm incredibly glad I chose this one because it may well be the best crime movie in history. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, but the way I'm feeling right now, it is. I watched it today for the first time. I've thought about it and lived with it for a few hours now. And it may well be the best. It is by one of the greats of foreign language cinema and one of the greats of cinema, Akira Kurosawa. It's High and Low. 1963, a crime drama by Kurosawa. It's based on a 1959 novel by Evan Hunter called King's Ransom. And the story just hits the ground running right from the very start. It stars Toshiro Mifune as a business executive called Gondo, who works for a very large shoe company. Some of the other executives of the company have a meeting with him, and they decide that the shoes being made by the company are old-fashioned, profits have kind of plateaued, and what they want to do is make more fashionable shoes more cheaply and build in some obsolescence into the product so that people keep buying the shoes. Rather than making quality, they want to make lower quality stuff. Now Gondo rejects that idea and throws them out pretty much from his cliff-top home. He's been with the company since he was 16. He came up through the ranks. He married well. His wife's dowry allowed him to buy shares in the company, and he's now become a high executive in it. What the other executives don't know is that Gondo is arranging a leveraged buyout so that he ends up with a majority of the shares in the company. He's got together 100 million yen, which is about 2.3 million US dollars. And that will enable him to buy the shares from some people in Osaka, paying 1/3 of it. And when he gets control of the company, the other 2/3 he can get a loan to cover. So he's got this organized. He's got his assistant almost on a plane to Osaka to seal the deal. When he gets a phone call, his son has been kidnapped. And Gondo talks to the kidnapper, who seems to have more than a few screws loose, and agrees to it. He knows it's going to bankrupt him, but his son's imperiled. He needs to get his son back, and he agrees to pay the 300 million yen ransom. That would leave him with 70 million yen, which is not enough to stop him losing everything he owns and becoming bankrupt. And then his son walks in. The kid kidnapped is his chauffeur's son, a kid called Shinichi. And then Gondo has an incredible moral dilemma. Does he give the 300 million to the kidnapper and save the child, thereby bankrupting himself and losing everything he has built for 30 years? Or does he let the kid die? The police arrive and they set up a very professional phone tapping arrangement. They check the area to see who's watching. They really kind of hit the ground running with this kidnapping case. While Gondo and his wife and his chauffeur and his assistant and the police toss around the ball of this moral and ethical dilemma, that Gondo finds himself in. That's the first 40 minutes of the film, and it is mind-blowing. Kurosawa sets it all inside the house Gondo owns, which is a very nice, very modern house. And he does some interesting things with the blocking. The scenes are blocked out perfectly, and as people move around the rooms, the camera tracks them sometimes. Other times it changes camera angles so you can see another person coming on scene. Other times it stays on people who aren't talking, so that you as an audience member can realize what the character is thinking. Kurosawa leads us by the nose exactly where he wants our attention to be by changing the camera angle, panning around, and zooming in, zooming out, focusing. He does this until the tension is excruciating. It really is masterful. It draws attention to itself, but it does it with a purpose, and I don't mind that. And I have never seen anything quite like it in film. This is blocking being used to tell a story, and the direction is totally masterful. It really is something I have never seen before in a film. Now, the movie then shifts focus to follow a couple of things. First off, the delivery of the ransom to the kidnapper. And this is done via a Shinkansen bullet train, which were very new things in 1963. And Gondo gets on the train with the ransom in 2 bags, which have very specific dimensions to them. The cops are on the train too, and they think the guy's on the train, but he's not. There's a very clever way that the money is delivered to the kidnapper. I'm not going to spoil that for you, because I really want you to see this film. Gondo delivers the money, and his creditors come around and have meetings with him, and he is going to go bankrupt. There's no way around it at this stage. The movie then shifts to the police investigation, and the intelligence that is used to just find things out. They get the kid back. The kid draws a picture of where he was, and they have to try to find the location. They slowly build up a picture of where things occurred. They find out that there were 3 people involved and not just one kidnapper. There was the kidnapper and 2 accomplices. Now, the cops seem to have a moral dimension in this as well. They really don't like the fact that the kidnapper, when he's caught, is only going to get about 15 years. He's ruined a man's life. He's terrorized a child. They don't like that. And then they get an opportunity, as the investigation progresses, to get him for a lot more than just 15 years. And they use that opportunity. They find out who he is, but they watch him and follow him, and they want to get more because there are other people involved, and the way that he has dealt with his accomplices means that this has become much more than a kidnapping case. And we see the cops in various ways following the kidnapper after he's got the money. They want to get the money back from him. They will get the money back from him, but they are putting him into a trap so that he reveals all that he has done. This becomes a really fascinating kind of manhunt in a sense. There are some scenes that are shot on location, and the locations are really interesting because I find Japan in the post-war period a really interesting location and a really interesting place to see. But there were also some scenes that were shot on sets at Toho Studios because some of the film was filmed in wintertime and it was just too cold to do location shooting for what they wanted to do. They wanted it to still be hot weather. It was supposed to be a really stinking summer. And so a lot of the scenes of tracking down the kidnapper were done on sets at Toho. And the sets are fantastic. There's a couple of nightclub scenes which are really different than anything I have ever seen in a movie. And they were part of the inspiration for the Jackrabbit Slim scenes in Pulp Fiction. Tarantino has admitted as much. And they really are energetic. The music's great. The crowds of people, sweaty people dancing together, all of that. And then the kidnapper moves to much sleazier and much poorer locations. And the story progresses until inevitably he is caught and ends up on death row. There is a gangbuster scene at the end where instead of getting a priest before he's executed, the kidnapper asks to see Gondo and he agrees. Now, this movie just blew me away. When I finished watching it, I sat on the couch for 20 minutes digesting what I had just seen. It was that good. It took me on a journey in a way I had never before experienced in a movie. And that just spun my head around. It's a unique film. And there was talk of doing a remake with a script by David Mamet. There are a whole bunch of people who've worked on it, including Martin Scorsese. But I think this movie does not need a remake. It needs to be watched, it needs to be experienced, it needs to get a bigger audience. There is a Criterion edition of it. I've got the Director's Suite edition, which was put out here in Australia a few years ago by Madman Films. But I think that you've got to just go into this movie and see what Kurosawa does and the way he does it. It is something to be experienced. I love it, and I'm still going to stay with that idea of it being the best crime movie I have ever seen. And I've seen Rafifi, and I've seen Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, and this one is up there with those. I think it's a movie that more people need to know about. Some friends tell me that there are one or two other Kurosawa films set in modern times that are on par with this, and I'm willing to believe them, and I'm going to find copies of those movies. But this one is unique. It is something that I wasn't expecting to have such an impact on me as it did. And it's the thing that I really like about going on this journey of seeing classic foreign language films I haven't experienced before. See High and Low, and you can thank me later. So that's about it. I'm going to stop gushing about this film now. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell, leaving a comment. You can support the channel at patreon.com/paleocinema, and just see the bloody movie. You're going to like it. You're never going to regret it, and it will change the way you see cinema. If it doesn't, then there's absolutely no hope for you. So anyway, as always, watch this film, watch bad films, watch any film Akira Kurosawa had anything to do with, and you're going to be going on a trip that you will remember for the rest of your life. So anyway, as always, look after yourself, get the jab, follow the science, wear the mask over your nose, and I'll catch you later.